a designated sole source aquifer, the only aquifer that we have, the only one future generations will have. Is it unreasonable, it is unreasonable to assume that toxic contaminants would remain stagnant for decades and not impact our LUS municipal drinking water facility and our sole source aquifer. It is unreasonable for LUS to think the minimum required testing of our wells is adequate for knowing our water supply is safe. LUS claims they are compliant. This is an area that is labeled scientifically as an area of recharge. It is also posted as a this area is also posted as a wellhead protection area, the purpose for which is to ensure that it be managed with even greater scrutiny, complete with protective ordinances that serve to protect the health of our water supply and that of the public in general. The concerned citizens of this community have voiced their concerns to local, state, and federal officials. The concerned citizens have respected the governmental processes that have taken place regarding this area since rollout of the I-49 project, despite not being granted a seat at many, many tables that were set throughout our community. We were honest and deliberate. The government needs to be honest and deliberate. The government needs to be completely transparent with their plans for our water facility. The government needs to fully disclose all information gathered and assessed and inform the public of all particulars impacting our water supply. The government needs to provide us with thorough, well-thought-out solutions for our municipal water facility and the wellhead protection area surrounding same. Further, our city must start work today, deliberately focused on adopting and enforcing comprehensive zoning ordinances, including sole source aquifer ordinances previously recommended by LADEQ around 2005, so that we don't have this situation happen again in our city. Our city has a water problem. That is our water reality. Our city has a PR problem, whether we choose to continue to be silent about it or we start dealing with it and talking to the public about it. Regardless, we have a PR problem. We have got to come together as a community in order to put water in its most appropriate place. It is the essential, most sacred resource that we have. Community, government, business, and academia coming together for best solutions is the only way. And it is good PR. We all have a role in making sure it is protected. Thank you.
Is that the final speaker?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. We're going to now move to resolutions. This is a public hearing. An electronic sign-in is available for anyone wishing to address the council. The 5-minute rule does apply. Jarman, can you please read?
Resolution 18, 2018, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council approving Advanced Products and Systems LLC for participation in the Industrial Tax Exemption Program at 108 Asset Avenue, Scott, Louisiana, 70583.
Okay, I need a motion in a second. Got a motion by Councilwoman Cook. Is there a second? Got a second by Councilman Conk. So we have a motion by Councilwoman Ned Cook and a second by Councilman Conk. Any council discussion? Councilman Conk, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I made the second because we need to have the conversation, and we also need to be on record as to whether or not we consent to this application being considered. Last year, Governor Edwards issued an executive order that all applications be reviewed by local taxing authorities who would be most impacted by any exemption. He identified the parish of Lafayette, the school board, and the sheriff. And let's not lose sight of the fact that what's being requested is a response as to whether or not we consent to that request. It's not binding on the state. They may continue the past practice of rubber stamping all applications, mostly without the knowledge of parish taxing authorities. It has been suggested that we establish criteria and guidelines for our decision-making process. I've taken the liberty of contacting school board officials, and I've met with the sheriff to discuss a couple of issues. One, we need to increase the awareness of the applications that are being filed, and that awareness has to be extended to all taxing authorities in Lafayette Parish, not just the school board, not the sheriff, and not just the parish council. Everyone impacted needs to be aware of the application. We should certainly make it incumbent on the applicant to submit pertinent information about their application. For example, what is the economic impact? What will the applicant bring to the table in exchange for the tax exemption? How much would be lost in potential property tax revenue, and for how long? Those are questions that have never been asked in the past by parish governing bodies. We now have that opportunity. But the real challenge is it's a moving target, as the state is currently proposing some significant changes which would include an 80-20 split between the state and the parish taxing authorities, and that would be over a 10-year period, as opposed to what is being currently provided and requested in this application. And the reason I make these comments is that this conversation will be repeated many times in the very near future, because we have been informed that there are a number of applications in the queue which will require our attention. That is, unless the rules of the game change again. Bottom line, we must be prepared to do a comprehensive vetting of all applications, and we need to establish criteria and guidelines to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Conk. Any other council discussion? I'm seeing none at this time. Any public comment?
Yes, sir. We do have one speaker, Dr. Michael Walden.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Mike Walden, Dr. Mike Walden. I live in District 3. For years, the public has been complaining about this, about the fact that we give tax exemptions for businesses that would have moved here anyhow, that it's just a giveaway. You know, while I have to pay my taxes, I have rental property here, I have to pay my taxes on the rental property. Nobody offers to give me a free ride, but others who seem to have good connections are able to not pay their taxes, and that's just not right. I thank Governor Edwards for at least giving us an opportunity through our elected officials to object to some of these exemptions. On this particular exemption, I note that the businesses in Scott, certainly Scott has some significant drainage problems that need to be fixed. I would think the business would want to contribute their money into solving the drainage problems of themselves and their employees there in Scott. The schools in Scott need to be supported, and I understand we're the only state in the United States that forgives their school taxes as an exemption. I urge you to, and it says that they'll get 10 jobs will be retained at the business out of the 90 people that they employ. Those 10 jobs appear to be something near minimum wage jobs. It's not like we're pulling in some new business. When businesses come here, I can see maybe you could give them something when they're new. When they're just continuing on and they say, well, we'll continue to hire these 10 people if you give us a tax exemption out of their 90 total employees, 10 people who appear to have something near minimum wage jobs. That just doesn't, on the face of it, it doesn't seem good. Just reading the application, I can't get enough information out of it to really say that it's a good deal. And I would hope that you would reject this to either choose not to support it or to amend the resolution to say that you oppose this tax exemption.
Thank you, sir.
He was the only speaker.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, let's call the, I don't see any other council discussion. Let's go ahead and call the vote.
District 1?
No.
District 2?
No.
District 3?
No.
District 4?
No.
5?
No.
District 6?
No.
District 7? District 8? District 9?
No.
Motion to adopt fails. Resolution 28, 2018, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council providing for canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the special election held in the city of Lafayette, state of Louisiana, on Saturday, April 28, 2018, to authorize the renewal of special taxes therein, 1.29 mils city property tax renewal for maintaining public streets, roads, and alleys, 1.92 mils city property tax renewal for maintaining and operating playgrounds, recreation centers, and other recreational activities.
Got a motion by Councilman Cole. Got a second by Councilman Castillo. Not seeing any council discussion at this time. Any public comment?
Yes, sir. We do have two speakers. The first of which is Andrew Hebert, registered city voter.
Okay.
And just for the record, on electronic voting, it showed that Mr. Terrio voted yes, but he did vote no.
All right, thank you for the clarification. I heard him say no, but I did see that his, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I told you it was historical. See that? I got a separate voice as a registered city voter. I was going to ask you about the public speaking time, about getting 2 5-minute intervals, but I've already been shut down on that twice.
It'll
So
be
I understand
3.
where you come. That'd be 3? Okay.
Yes.
The Y is missing. Y'all saw the sign downtown Lafayette? The letter Y is missing? No, it's not the letter. It's the word. Why do City of Lafayette residents allow someone to call for property taxes without equal representation? I think that's a very valid why question. Why is there only one resolution for 2 separate city property taxes? Did y'all pass a resolution to call for 2 separate property taxes? I know you'll answer that one. I know that the parish has no recreational parks property taxes, and the city takes care of that, I understand. So there's a negotiated contract between the city of Lafayette and the parish of Lafayette. And I understand the city parish president negotiates those. And I always wondered, how do you negotiate with yourself? Since you represent the city and represent the parish, how do you do that on these intergovernmental agreements? I thought it was rather funny. Why should the city of Lafayette become autonomous for property taxes? I saw this in the Current. They put out this map about the parish taxes for the library. Well, I printed this one of the city of Lafayette. You see the red? That's the city of Lafayette only taxing district. It's called geography. The city of Lafayette is now surrounded by the non-consolidated cities. So the city of Lafayette basically has nowhere to grow its tax base. So I know y'all may propose where the city has autonomy, but why would I want it when I'm stuck inside of a hole? I told somebody about Wagon Train. Remember Wagon Train, this old cowboy western? And a guy would say, round the wagons up because the Native Americans are coming and surrounding us. And the Native Americans are hooting and hollering and yelling, and they're actually laughing because how can that little circle of wagons support itself in that little bitty circle of land when the Native Americans have the entire parish. I urge you to do what we voted on, to merge the city and the parish governments into one tax, one city parish tax. That's it. That will solve the problem. Everybody has a slogan. Mine is Lafayette Parish One. You can't be any better than being one united parish. It's time we do that. I think we need to look at that. And I'll volunteer my services to help you do that. I think it's possible. I know it's possible because the people of this parish are great. They can do great things as long as we do it together. Thank you.
The reference was made earlier by Andy about what we voted on in 1992, what was the proposition on the ballot. I'm asking the council clerk if you do research and identify the exact verbiage for that proposition and exactly what was voted or what was approved by the voters at that time. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker.
Patty Carter.
All of the issues that are coming up later on, the items, and you're running late.
Okay. She passes. We did have one citizen who did not wish to speak, who signed in to support the resolution.
Okay. I'm not seeing, all right, please call the vote.
District 2? District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8? Yes. District 9? Yes. District 1?
Yes.
Motion to adopt is approved. Resolution 29, 2018, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council providing for canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the special election held in the Parish of Lafayette, State of Louisiana on Saturday, April 28, 2018, to authorize the renewal of special taxes therein, 1.61 mills property tax renewal for maintaining, operating, and improving the Lafayette Parish Library, 1.17 mills parish property tax renewal for obtaining, improving, operating, and maintaining the juvenile rehabilitation facilities in the parish.
Got a motion by Councilman Castile, second by Councilman Lewis. Not seeing any council discussion at this time. Any public comment on this item?
Yes, sir. We did have one citizen who signed in who did not wish to speak but supports the resolution. The first of 5 speakers is Andrew Hebert, registered parish voter.
Recognized. 2 voices, 2 separate voices, but it took 2 separate resolutions. I'd like for you to consider in the public speaking period that citizens of the city of Lafayette get 2 separate voices, 2 separate 5-minute intervals. Thank you, Bruce. Here it is. There's the ballot. The resolution that authorized the election. Sure, I'm going to give it to her. Parish taxes do work, parish-wide. You see that? We can actually pass parish-wide taxes, and we can also defeat them when we feel that we cannot believe in what they're for or the purposes. And I think if you unite us, become one Lafayette Parish, one, we'll pass those taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Patty Carter.
Good evening. I would ask that you make available the ballot that we keep referencing on both sides of this issue. It happened so long ago, I don't think most of the public realizes what the verbiage is on the ballot, and I would ask in some form you make that available to the public, maybe on your website. Thank you.
Okay. You have the request, Ms.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir, I do. Next speaker is Melanie Brevis.
Hi there. I wanted to talk about, like, in support of the libraries. Is that okay?
Yes.
Is that relevant to what? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So, obviously, you know, with this one, we, voters in Lafayette Parish, voted not to renew the library millage. And I feel that much of the way this turned out, it was really just a shame. It was a shame that so many people listened to an outside PAC who were only telling part of the story. It's also an irony, as the people who actually listen to this group actually need the libraries more than anyone, whether they realize it or not. They need places which can provide accurate information with authoritative sources to back it up. It was also a shame, too, that out of the 3 leaders of this PAC, 2 of them aren't even Lafayette Parish residents. So they spent over $20,000 to influence an election in our parish, and enough people believed them and made it worth their investment. And yet 2 of these 3 leaders will not even be impacted by the fallout of this decision. And third, it was a shame that some people in this parish have no idea of what a well-run organization looks like. Our library was not squirreling away extra money and putting their hands out for still more. They were instead behaving exactly like a well-managed and financially responsible agency should. That extra money, quote unquote, was reserved for building projects which have not yet been completed or paid for, or earmarked for yet more library improvements for expansions. Now, it's understandable that examples of well-run public institutions that make the most of taxpayer dollars are few and far between in this country, and so maybe that contributed to some of the voters' confusion. They just don't know what good fiscal management looks like when they see it. But our library system is what a well-run, fiscally healthy organization looks like. When my family and I first moved to Lafayette almost 4 years ago, one of my questions was, how good would the libraries be? And that might not be most people's concern about a new place, but I'm a librarian myself. I worked for 7 years before moving down here as a librarian for Baltimore County Public Library, which is one of the top-ranked systems in our country. So I was worried, especially as a parent, about the quality and the level of the libraries and its programming. And I can tell you that we have a system down here that's right on par from where I came from. My family and I use the library for everything, from checking out materials to attending programs. Before my son turned 7, he was excited about his 7th birthday, not so much in terms of his birthday party, but because he knew that when he turned 7, he could participate in the Lego Club at the library. And if you look at the library's website and look at their statistics on usage, you can see that my family is not alone when you look at the overall statistics about the use of libraries and their services in this parish. Our library has 3 things which I think are incredible and make us one of the top ones. Innovation. All you have to do is look through that online catalog or pick up the calendar of events to see the amazing array of programs offered, many of which are being tried for the first time. And this is a mark of innovation, to think creatively, to think outside the box, to try new things even if you're not sure of the outcome. And this is what we need to keep modeling for this parish. Community partnership and outreach. The library has work to do even more beyond what its budget would cover by partnering with community members. I don't know if anyone else had a chance to attend the Maker Fair that they had a month or so ago, which was organized by the library at the Science Museum. It was 2 floors and outdoors too of individual makers in the community, all sharing what they do, all sharing what they have to offer. The Friends group of the library raises money separately to bring in most of the summer reading performance programs to the library. So again, they're maximizing their resources and their volunteers. The quality of the services we have in our library, especially the makerspace, which is at 2 of the branches. The buildings, the array of resources that can be checked out, the maker spaces themselves. This is something that would be the envy of any library system, and many do not have it. So for a state that lags at the bottom in terms of education, health, and wealth, we are cutting edge in this parish when it comes to our libraries, and that's something we should be proud of and nurture. And all this to say, I know the tax didn't pass, tax renewal didn't pass, but I hope that we can work together as a parish to give libraries the funding they need, whether this is bringing this renewal to the voters again or finding funding elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Mark Mallory.
Hi, good evening. I'm here also in defense of the library, and to that end, I'll be speaking about the unusual circumstances which led to the library millage renewal failure last month, and also on the general necessity for library services across the parish. So 8% of registered Lafayette voters voted on April 28th or in early voting on the 4 ballot issues available on those dates. The other 3 ballot issues passed in the high 50s or low 60s percentage-wise. The difference between the library renewal and those other 3 ballot issues was $21,500 spent by outside PACs for radio spots, for direct mail inserts, which were misleading and factually inaccurate about the supposed budget surplus for the library. This unusual circumstance, in my mind, prompts giving the voters a second chance to fully evaluate the truth about the library's funding. I think the timing of the direct mail leaflets in particular was provided no opportunity for accurate, informed rebuttal, and I think it influenced a large number of people away from supporting the library when they otherwise might have. And this brings me to my second point, which is that in general, library services are absolutely necessary in this parish. I think the library represents a sign of this community's endorsement that an individual can lift themselves up by their bootstraps, that you can inform yourself, that you can read and learn and gain and enrich yourself. The library is a safe, clean, free space. It's air-conditioned. You don't need to pay money to exist in that space and to learn, unlike many other places which might provide you similar internet access or something like that. Also, the library's provision of internet access is becoming more and more necessary, especially for minority and low-income people in our community, as more and more jobs require online applications. Again, returning to this point about lifting yourself up by your bootstraps, internet access is absolutely vital to every member of our community, and the library is a necessary conduit to get those people to the library, or to the internet. And I'll conclude my brief statement by saying that, by quoting a Republican, Oliver Wendell Holmes, who said, "Taxes are the price we pay for a civilized society." And I ask this council, if the average $20 to $40 that this tax is going to represent for the average mortgage payer in this community is too high, what price is right for a civilized society? And I beg you to do what we can to find funding for the library. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Final speaker, Francesco Cracco.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here to speak on behalf of the library millage as well. Some of my citizens who came up before me, I think, laid out the facts and explained why there should be a revote, hopefully in November or as soon as possible. I'm from District 6. I'm a homeowner in District 6, a father of 3. And I can tell you that we use the library quite a bit. My daughter, Emma, actually is a fan of the Makerspace. I don't know if you've used the Makerspace. It's amazing, the 3D printing. We were there just the other day. We printed out some kind of giant mermaid type piece, you know. And my son, Giuseppe, little guy, 3 years old, he loves story time. We go to story time there all the time. And my son, Jacques, who is 5, really enjoys pajama night. Have you been to pajama night? Yeah, adults can't go in their pajamas, but the kids can, but that would be fun. All that's to say that the library is really an amazing resource. I'm not from Lafayette originally, but I can proudly say that I feel that one of the best utilities we have in Lafayette is the library. I haven't seen a better library system. I'm from New Jersey, where the taxes are astronomical, and I can tell you that your library here is amazing. What they do with the funding that they have is amazing. I was really disheartened to see that this outside PAC was able to influence this election. You know, I think all the other renewals passed except for this one. Why? It was that $21,500. They were really smart about it, and they were really misleading. There was not a surplus. These were monies that were earmarked for other projects. Okay, if you have money that you're saving to buy a car, that's not extra money, right? And so there were things like that that were said that made people feel like, oh, we have this greedy library that doesn't need this extra money. Well, for the $20 to $40, think about what we just lost. I mean, we lost vital services that might be the difference between a student in, you know, a poor neighborhood having access to the books they need and the resources they need for economic mobility, right? Do we want more poor citizens? Is that going to help the city of Lafayette? I just read an article about how Lafayette lost 33% of its GDP in 4 years. Do you think that cutting our libraries is going to help that? I'm really in anguish as I watch, you know, important tax initiatives like the library renewal, right? Some people thought it was like an increase. It wasn't. It was a renewal. Or the half cent. I mean, when we did have an increase, like the half cent to improve the schools, have you seen the trailers at Myrtle, which is actually one of the better schools, but, you know, at some of the public schools, the kids are learning in these moldy trailers, right? And we couldn't get that half cent increase because there are Lafayette citizens mobilized against sensible taxes. I mean, who in the 21st century is against educating the population? How are we going to compete with Houston or Austin or New Orleans, where, let's face it, that's where we're losing our population? There's nothing special or ordained about Lafayette, right? We're not a hub anymore. People shop on Amazon. They don't come in from Opelousas to buy in our stores, right? The oil industry is drying up, and if it ever starts to go up again, they have efficiencies. They're not going to hire back that population. How is Lafayette going to grow? With an educated population. We need an educated workforce. We need utilities like good schools, good libraries, good parks. I mean, you know, I go to Girard Park and I see these pools that are just cesspools for the ducks, and I think to myself, gosh, what a wonderful resource that could be for our city. You could actually draw millennials from other cities to come live here because we have things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, we have some wonderful things. We have the festivals, we have the music and the food and so on, and we have things like LUS Fiber, that's good, but I think we are competing with other cities, right? We're competing with other cities, not only to keep our talent here, but to attract other talent and other businesses. And I think that shooting down that library renewal, shooting down any kind of tax that would improve our schools is going in the opposite direction in the 21st century. I don't see Lafayette rising in this century based on manufacturing or, 19th or 20th century industries. That's not going to be the way we thrive. So I really just appeal to the council to do whatever it takes to bring this tax renewal for the library back in front of the voters. We're smart now. That PAC is not going to be able to influence as many people, hopefully, and we'll be able to get this through, do the sensible thing, and help our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
She was the final speaker.
Final speaker, okay. All right. Please call the vote. Oh. Councilman Terrio, you have the floor.
Yes, I have one just general statement I want to make from some of the comments we heard in reference, I guess, to the libraries, and that I've had some discussions with a number of people in reference to it passing or not passing. I'm talking about the renewals, all those other than the library. The one question that came to me from so many people is that the core responsibility of government is roads, drainage, traffic, infrastructure, and safety. That's the core responsibility of government. If we cannot meet those responsibilities, why would we want to give our property taxes to other areas that are not providing that? Why have a beautiful library, which we have many of, and horrible roads to get to them? Or roads that are flooded with water? Go back and do your research. The primary responsibility of government, roads, drainage, traffic, infrastructure, and safety. What's happened is government has now morphed into providing everything for everybody, or as so many people would like to see. So anyway, just on that instance, the individuals that I spoke to were very adamant and wanted to make sure that that was brought out. Libraries are great. This is nothing against the library in general. Beautiful facilities, and we've got great employees that maintain them. But it comes to a point where you have to make a choice. What is the priority? That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Not seeing any other council discussion. Please go ahead and call the vote.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1? District 2?
Yes.
Motion to adopt is approved.
Okay. All right, before we move to item 10, some things that I want to state as a taxpayer myself, as a LCG chairman, and councilman, and representative of District 1 and all of the parish. A couple of facts that need to be put out before these resolutions come right before us. The resolutions that are on the agenda are simply on a call for an election. We've had comments here tonight that says bring the library, give the voters another chance. We had someone in the back mention give the voters an opportunity to vote on amending the charter. And that's great. I love hearing that, because at the end of the day, as elected officials, we should give the public every opportunity to voice their opinion on any solution, whether it's libraries, whether it's roads, whether it's bridges, whether it's the court, the judges, the DA's office. Approval of the resolutions tonight does not pass or impose a tax. A yes vote is simply allowing the taxpayers and the public an opportunity to vote. By calling an election, it would allow the citizens to say yes or no to providing funding support that is mandated by the state for LCG to pay for the operations of the courthouse, adult correction, and the jail. The people should have a right to decide with these resolutions. Yes, I've been contacted by citizens, and I'm sure there's people here tonight that are going to talk against new taxes. But on the same hand, I've also have been contacted by the other side that said this needs to go to a public vote, because we might be in support of making sure that our judicial system in Lafayette Parish is operating at full capacity to make sure our people are safe. Both sides should be given an option. Both sides, whether you yay or you nay, should have an opportunity to voice that opinion. Therefore, as a taxpayer who lives in an unincorporated area, it's only fair to have the taxpayers vote. I've studied this issue since 2014 as a chairman, several committees that have gone back and forth. So this is not something that Councilman Nakhan or his fellow council members have just dreamed of and just made up this resolution that we're just going to do it with the snap of our hand. This is something that has been thought out and well prepared. We've asked for public input. We had a summit at the Light Center. We asked for public input. It was hardly zero to none input. We have people that contact us that say, shoot it down before you give it to the public to vote. You have a right to stop the people from voting. Well, what if that was turned around, and what if we had the right to pass a tax without bringing it to you? How would you feel at that point? It's called state mandates that require LCG to pay for the courthouse, jail, and the DA operations. Funding for all which comes out of the parish general fund, which has declined due to sales tax, annexation. Fact of the matter is there's some tough decisions that have to be made sometimes as elected officials. What's really disappointing is the assassination of character, and how when you need your ditch cleaned, you need your road repaved, you need someone to come look at the situation, need some help with your pickup on your garbage. It's convenient. Who do you call when those things need addressing? You call the government. Who do you want when your house is on fire? Who do you depend on to go help make sure that they save that house or that property or the loved one? They depend on government. So when we do some of these things and we go to extra meetings and we go and we study our government and our community and how do we make sure that we don't fall behind, and you spend all of this time doing all of this stuff and the people love you, but then, here comes the resolution. Mr. Nakhan's all about making sure he's aggressive and wants to pass taxes, and how much misleading information is out there. It's very disappointing to be called several rude things in which my children have to see on social media. We'll vote you in. We'll vote you out as fast as we voted you in. All you worry about is your hair, right? We're not going to buy your music anymore. We're watching you. We're watching how you vote. You don't vote my way, you're out. We'll put somebody in there. We'll get somebody that's going to listen to the people. Well, if I'm not mistaken here, giving in you the right to vote is listening, because ultimately there's consequences for doing nothing, knowing what's going on over the years, studying it, being in it day in, day out, going to extra meetings, finding out what we can do, cutting budgets. Our administration, first time he took office, the budget was cut. We up here as a council as a whole are not out to hurt our community. We're not out to fill our pockets and line our money. We got children. We got investments here in this community. But you elect people that are going to be honest, that are going to be there to make the tough decisions, whether it's popular or it's not. Obviously, when you mention tax of a renewal or a new tax, you're not popular anymore. Those are situations that I feel as an elected official, we are for you. There's people that have fought in wars for our rights, for people to vote. How am I being a good representative of this community if I'm denying you an opportunity to vote on your community? Consequences if it gets to the voters and it passes. Now that the DA is pulled off, we're talking maybe $60 a year on 5 meals. $60 a year. Don't come watch my music. All I care about is my hair and all the horrendous things that I had to hear my son say today while I went to lunch. Because another kid said, oh, your daddy's the one that my dad said, oh, you're all about taxes. My dad's not going to vote for you no more. Make my 7-year-old cry, and I have to explain to him that his daddy did nothing wrong other than give an opportunity for the public to speak, only to be ridiculed and harassed on social media. That's a shame. This community is better than that. This community is better than that. And whether you for it or against it, that's your opinion, and you got to decide what you want this community to be like. It's my job and this council to give it to you, the people, because I'm listening to both sides. You ultimately have to decide. I have to be honest with you. And if the consequences is it doesn't get to the voters and it doesn't pass, then we, as a government, have to then address the situation. So I encourage you, when you come up to speak tonight, we're not pointing out individual council members. You're going to please address this as a whole. But as far as for the assassination of characters and the downgrading of individuals on social media and the misrepresentation of the facts, I'm ashamed of that. We're better than that. But if you want a good, hard-working, honest elected official to do the right thing, I think you're looking at 9 of us up here. Regardless of how we vote, whether it gets to you or it doesn't, I don't take anything personal against any fellow council member or any administration or anyone in you in the audience. But the personal attacks have to stop. So tonight and coming up forward, ladies and gentlemen, is a resolution to be considered to bring it to the public for vote. I ask that when you come up and you speak, that we all be professional and speak your opinion. And I thank you for coming here tonight, and I thank you for being here. And we'll go ahead and move forward. Can you please read the next item, please?
Resolution 30, 2018, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Lafayette, State of Louisiana, to authorize a new special tax therein, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. District Courts.
Got a motion by Councilman Castillo? Got a second by Councilman Boudreaux? Not seeing any council discussion. Oh, Councilman Conk, you have the floor.
I was holding back because I thought others would want to speak before me. We've had a number of meetings recently, and to paraphrase, the gist of the conversation is that we are doing the right thing at the right time. I'm sorry, the right thing for the right reasons at the wrong time. Well, there's no good time to talk about new revenue sources for parish or city government. But what we have to do is deal with the mandates handed down by the state. And yet, on the other hand, those same folks of the Constitution, the legislators who create the mandates, really restrict us in how we fund those mandates. And the primary sources of revenue are property taxes or sales taxes. The 4 of us who served on this evaluation team have identified 3 areas of unfunded state mandates. What we have brought to the council and to the public is nothing new. There are no new revelations in our recommendations. They have been noted in past budget messages from the administrations. This is a minimal approach to address shortfalls in the parish budget, which pre-existed the inaugural 1996 of Lafayette Consolidated government. The parish was going broke at that time. It's still going broke. I think in many ways, when we look at a budget for consolidated government, we really provide a disservice to ourselves, and we mislead the public, because we adopt consolidated budgets. And people have told me, you've got over $636 million. How can the parish be going broke? Well, let's break down that $636.4 million in consolidated budget. First of all, over half of that budget goes to LUS, half of it. And by the way, none of that money can be used for parish purposes. The city has a budget of $188.5 million. That's the city of Lafayette. Again, no monies can be used for parish purposes. The parish budget is $88.8 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but the greater majority of those dollars are dedicated. The revenues come from property taxes that you, the voters, have approved for a specific purpose and may not be used for anything else. So, what do we end up with in our general fund, which covers the day-to-day operations of parish government? About $12.7 million. That's it, to operate a parish for 1 year. Take 31% of that, and it goes to the judges and the district attorneys as part of the mandates that we have from the state. I have heard repeatedly the public outcry for cutting expenses. Well, we've done that in recent budgets, if you've been following this council. And believe me, I, for one, am prepared to do much more. We'll begin the budget reviews for the fiscal year 18-19 in July. We will do so with almost $1 million in available general fund balance than we did last year. We're starting off with $1 million less than we did last year. That's going to mean we're going to have to make adjustments in our budget moving forward. By the way, all these proposed tax propositions that we're discussing tonight have absolutely no impact on this forthcoming budget. None. If it's approved, we would see the impact of the revenue for the next fiscal year, which would be 19/20. I've had the opportunity, and everybody who wants to make the effort, to look at our audit, which was just released in the latter part of April. We're going to be presented with a synopsis of that by our CPA, our auditing firm, at the next meeting. But I've gotten a couple of previews of that, and it's really scary. In the prior year budget, we were told that the parish of Lafayette had 22 days of funds reserved to operate government. We will be told at the next meeting we now have only 6 days. By the way, the link to that audit has been added to our LCG website. It's under the City Services menu section of the site. The four of us, Mr. Castile, Mr. Boudreau, Mr. Naka, and myself, we've made the effort. We've accomplished our task, and whatever is the outcome of this conversation will determine how we govern the parish of Lafayette in the future. I urge a vote to bring the tax propositions to a vote of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohn. Not seeing any other council discussion. Public comment, please.
Yes, sir. We do have 3 citizens who did not wish to speak, who signed in to support the resolution, and we had 3 citizens who did not wish to speak, who signed in to oppose the resolution. We do have 8 speakers, the first of which is Andrew Hebert, registered parish voter.
Good evening. Y'all are in a difficult spot. Y'all have adopted, y'all have been elected, and you're trying to solve sins of the past. I believe we used that remark at one time. And that is why in the state constitution it says assumption of debt. If the special district or a local public agency which is consolidated and merged has outstanding indebtedness, the authority provided by this section, which is the consolidation section in the Constitution, says shall not be exercised unless provision is made for the assumption of the indebtedness by the governing authority of the local governmental subdivisions involved. So you have to absorb the debts. When you merge 2 companies, you don't keep 2 separate books. When you consolidate, the legal definition, you dissolve both entities and become one separate one. I appreciate the situation you're in, because I know it's really difficult, and I wish I would have commented at the public hearing, but I wasn't prepared. So as I understand millage rates, you're going to set a millage rate to generate X amount of dollars for 10 years. Let's say it's $1 million. And if the property values, let's say 1 mil generates $1 million, and if property values double, then you're going to collect $2 million. But you're required by state law to roll back the millage to only collect the $1 million. So the millage rate is set for the dollar amount. It's not set for the millage rate. And that's probably one reason why the library tax didn't pass, because the millage rate was asking at 1.61, but y'all rolled it back to 1.43, and then they asked us to renew it at 1.61 again. And I, as a taxpayer, going, well, they've been operating at the lower rate for 2 years, but now they're asking for the higher rate. So I think that's one reason why that tax didn't pass. So I suggested they try again at the 1.43 mill rate. So I don't see where, and you say you don't raise taxes. Well, when you roll back the tax millages to generate the same dollar amount, then you roll them forward to generate more taxes, you're increasing my taxes. And it takes 2/3 vote of the council, right? Do I, as a City of Lafayette resident, have equal representation on that 2/3 vote? Not as a city resident, but as a parish resident, I do. So I don't think that's fair. So the general fund is losing money because of annexations. Don't y'all vote on City of Lafayette annexations to annex land from the parish? Oh, there's that double hat again. You're cutting your own throats. You shouldn't annex any more land for the City of Lafayette because you're cutting the parish budget. But I know you got to wear both hats, and it's difficult. So I say we need to be more creative in our requesting for taxes. So I'll lay odds y'all could pass all these taxes simply by adding a clause in there that says we'll designate $500,000 of that for roads, drainage, and bridges. Kind of like you did the CREATE initiative. You probably get it passed. I think it's a good thing to pass parish-wide taxes to support the parish. I see the need for it. But again, we need to solve the other city tax problems, because I don't want to pay more than I have to one elected body. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is James Crumling, who will be followed by G. Paul Marks.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. Almost messed up. My name's Jim Crumling. I'm president of the Acadiana Patriots and also the host of Freedom Forum on AOC. And the reason I tell you that is that you all get a lot of feedback. Being in the position I am, I get a lot of feedback. Some good, some bad. Just like you said, Kevin. Yep. My name has been abused every once in a while, and that goes with the territory.
Absolutely.
I'm not against the voters being able to vote on a tax. But I'll tell you what my issue is with this resolution. The resolution goes after the homeowner again. And I can tell you when I first bought my house, and I'm not from Lafayette, but I've been here 35 years, and I am married to a Cajun lady, so I'm not going anywhere. The thing is that I was paying $75 a year. And now I'm paying over $600 a year, and I've watched the price or the cost of my home almost double, or a time and a half, which is a good thing if I sell the house. The thing is that I'm 71 years old, okay? Now I'm one of the blessed ones at my age for income, and I don't qualify for the, to keep your things. But I know senior citizens that can't afford to put another dime out. And what I'm looking at is we always go after the homeowner. And it's not only the homeowner, it's the business owner that gets nailed by this thing. We want to create jobs, but we're now taxing the business owner more. We're taxing In this case, I understand it will affect the senior citizens that have their tax mandated at, there's that word again, at a certain level. And so that's my issue with this thing. We're going after a small portion of the people, the percentage, instead of looking at what we can do to do this. I understand these are mandated things and we have to provide this income. But I'm tired as a homeowner, as a taxpayer, and as a citizen that definitely cares about this town and this state, because I've spent a lot of time in the last 9 years in Baton Rouge. And believe me, I've had some fun. The thing is, I look at some things, and some of y'all are not gonna like this, but I look at projects that we've had. One of the most surprising one is on a Tuesday night you voted on parking meters, and the next day the parking meters were out. Do we really need that? I mean, that's what I heard, you know, and where did the money come from and how much was it? I look at murals right over here. How much did they cost? You know, and who paid for that? Did the taxpayers pay for that? We're painting drains. Did they do that for free? And the biggest one, and I know all the cultural and we got to make things look beautiful, but to appropriate $500,000 to put arches up, of which I understand only one got built so far. People look at this stuff. They bring this stuff to me. You know, I'm just trying to point out what I hear on a daily basis. I had 45 phone calls on the library tax. Okay, I'm just a citizen. You know, I can't imagine what y'all got. The thing is, and I hate to say this, I said, but I'd rather see a 0.25% sales tax than I would nailing the homeowners into business again. And I know some of my compadres are gonna say, have you lost it, Jim? But the thing is we really need to take a serious look at how we're gonna affect business and employment in this town. Thank you for your time.
All right, next speaker, please.
Next speaker, G. Paul Marks, and he will be followed by Karen Maynard.
I want to thank the council for giving me this opportunity, and you four guys who came forward with the plan, I commend you. I think we're in a situation in the court system where we're going to have to do something, or you're going to have some public safety issues. In 2016, my office went broke and fired most of our lawyers. We were able to get with the DA and the judges to get some funding to deal with the people who were incarcerated, and we're just gradually digging our way out of that. And I did move from Nanette's district, but not because of the Vero construction, Nanette, really, it's not why. Moved into Liz's district just because we found a house. But all of you guys have a tough job. I know that. My real purpose in appearing was just to point out that the public defender portion of the court system is very critical. We're kind of one part that if it's not funded, the other parts really can't do the work. And I would also suggest that you talk to Joel about our Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, where all of the stakeholders are talking now and talking about funding. We've done some projects to save the sheriff money by processing people quicker. And so our office is ready to work with you guys. If you don't get the proposal tonight, I think there's a lot of support in the court system and in the community for doing something. We're also working with Judge Edwards on a reentry program to help people who are coming back to Lafayette, and to do that as a community of criminal justice. So my only point in contacting you was just to ask that we be included and we be considered. And I know you guys all have a very noble intentions. It's a tough job right now because right now people seem to want to get everything without paying for it. That may be why I have 95% of the cases in the criminal justice system, but I know that a lot of people can't afford to be represented unless we're in. So I just appreciate in the future, as Bruce pointed out when I talked to him before, if you had talked to us before, maybe we'd have you, and I understand that, and I hope we'll do better on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Call.
Question. Where was your funding coming from before you were cut?
The funding is, it's one of those typical government funds, client payments, court cost. About 60% of our money is local generated. City court generates a plurality of that. The state legislature allocates some supplemental funds that are about 40% of what we get. So we get some money from people's bond when they post bond in the city. We get some money that's shared with the other entities in the system when a bond is forfeited. So it's about $4 million a year total. We probably need about another $1 million a year to really do the job right.
But you have not received funding from LCG in the past, correctly?
We had, under Title 15, we were in the criminal court fund, and we can be in the criminal court fund with the judges and the DAs under their discretion. We've talked to the city a little bit about something through the Public Trust Financing Authority for office space, and we're still kind of working on the alternatives there. But most of the larger districts, Baton Rouge, Orleans, us, do get some funding from the community, from the parish government. I'm not sure they're in the same shape we are on the government end, but it's something that's so integrally connected to the court system that if you guys funded everybody else and left us out, you would have to do what the Supreme Court said in a case called State versus Citizen and just stop your criminal proceedings because you can't go forward without us there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yes, sir.
All right. Councilman Terrio.
Just to do a little follow-up, because I think we had this discussion a long time ago about some of the funding. You might get a kick out of it, but the Public Defender's Office also gets funding from traffic citations and violations.
Right. There's a $45 court cost.
That's right, which means that once red flags came in, that flow of money pretty much dwindled up.
I think, Mr. Terrio, we saw a little dip. We didn't see as much as we thought there would be. And I think what we found is that red flags was catching more people, and the city police were still doing their part. But I will say this, that in Orleans Parish, when they started their traffic cameras, they did put some of that money into the agencies that would have suffered by a reduction in the traffic tickets.
Okay,
So,
I thought, and maybe I'm incorrect, but I thought I saw some information that was provided to me a while back that that amount of money that was going to the local public defender's office had really, really dried up substantially because of that program that was operating.
well, I know in talking to Judge Saloom, he expects their ticket revenue to go down, and that would affect us, certainly.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Karen Maynard. Okay, she's not here. Next speaker is Patty Carter, and she will be followed by Dr. Michael Walden.
Good evening again. I wanted to bring up a lot of questions that the people had. You say that you want the public to be able to vote on these issues, but they're wondering why they didn't have any input on an advisory panel and why only 4 of you were on such an advisory panel. We just feel like that every time there's an issue that comes up where you need an advisory panel, that it should be one person from the public, from each one of your districts, to get a true feeling for what's out in your area. We never get an advisory panel of the public. You invite the public to come to your meetings. I've been to several of your meetings, even at the Light Center. And you listen, but there's no public real input on advisory committees, and I would suggest that you entertain that in the future. And I'm just wondering why it hasn't been to this point where we have input before we get to this stage. Also, it was announced tonight on Facebook, and I hope it's fake news, that Sheriff Garber is going to place a 3/4 cent parish-wide tax on the December 8th ballot. And I don't know if that's news to any of you, if you picked up on that yet. Claire's reporting that, so I might have stolen her thunder. But we're looking at that also. And it's kind of dismissive when I hear people come up, well, it's only $60 here and $40 there. These things are starting to build up. There's a lot of people that are still out of work because of the oil field. That was the backbone of this community for decades. And it bothered me someone was so dismissive about that, well, maybe it'll come back, or maybe it'll not, but we'll fill it in other ways. These people are still out of work, and their budget is limited. You can only stretch a limited budget so far. Also, you're targeting the same group of people all the time. The property owners, business, and private. If you're going to have something for the jail, anything that the whole public makes use of, it should be a sales tax that everybody has some skin in the game, not just property tax owners. Also, these people that have frozen the value of their houses will be affected by these new millages. Some of them do not understand that. They think, oh, well, my property tax is frozen. This won't raise my taxes at all. That really needs to be out there and explained to them, because they're in the dark about this, a lot of people, because I've spoken to them. They think if they're paying X number of dollars a year, it's going to continue even with the new millages. So that needs to be verified. Also, a lot of people are wondering too, what happens to the money that LUS Fiber overcharged the city, and will that money be able to be used for any of these places and divisions that are having deficits? Because that's a real big question in the community. $1.7 million is a lot. I would really advocate that you get the public more involved when you have advisory committees, is really what I'm searching for. There are a lot of intelligent people out here that can handle the information that you see also and could provide some positive input. And I would just hope that you would consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for clarification, for the record, in 14, when I put my committee together, there was not one single council person that sat on that committee. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and announce to you, the committee members at the time were Jason L. Kuby. He was the CEO in Lafayette Chamber of Commerce. There was Chad Hanks, who was a Parish resident and the leader chairman, local sugarcane farmer. There was Scott Hayes, Finance Committee of the 705 organization, Young Leaders of a Better Acadiana. There was Jerry Prejean from Iberia Bank, Financial Executive. And there was Ms. Sarah Walker, City Resident and former Chair, Assessment Committee on School Needs. So the public was reached out, and there was no input from either council member or committee at that time, back in 2014.
What about in recent history?
And I can talk when I was a chairman. That's the committee that I formed. They have recommendation. We have a documentation of all of the assessments that they looked at, who they met with departments, and everything. I'll be more than glad to give you that full report if you'd like. Ms. Veronica, can you make sure that we make that public record, please?
Well, I'm just wondering why all of you were included on this advisory panel, since you represent the whole parish. Was everybody asked to be on it?
It was not a advisory. It was a finance committee. Within the government, you have a finance liaison team of 4 members who looks at every day operations and when things come up with administration and the council that you meet and you address. So that was a financial committee, wasn't advisory. It was a financial committee in regards to that. In regards to the 1.7 million that you're talking about, LUS and that is a city issue. That those funds cannot fix the parish budget. That money is going back to the city of Lafayette. That's not coming to the parish side of things. To answer your question on the 1.7 million.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. You have another question?
Councilman Castillo.
Yes, thank you, sir. I formed this committee that you're talking about, the 4 members, and it was the Finance Committee. We took that report that came from the public side. We looked at it, dissected it, and we started studying our parish budget to see how we can make changes, where we can make changes, what was needed, and that's where we started. And what you see before you tonight is minimal what's needed. We're starting out right here. Okay, this is a mandate by the state, and we're trying to address these issues. Then we're gonna hopefully move on and try to address some more of that study that was made by the public. I had personally had meetings for a year and a half, open to the public, and it was advertised everywhere. We visited every city. We went to organizations. We tried to get public input on all this information. We're not here to force anything down anybody's throat. We wanted input. You know how many people from the public actually attended these meetings? Take a guess. You were at the summit. I'm glad you came. How many from the public you think was there?
Probably 10,
5,
12.
maybe 5. Okay. That's a summit with everybody invited, parish-wide. Okay. 153,000 voters. Okay. 10 people show up, one meeting. I had meetings monthly. At the first 6 months, it was weekly. Nobody would show up.